Right, guys, thank you for tuning in again to the Winner Circle on the It's More Than Just Money movement channel. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please click on the subscribe button, click on the notifications bell, comment, let us know what your thoughts are. You're going to enjoy this interview. You're going to learn a lot, especially when it comes to property investing, property management, and basically running a business. Now, my guest today is Mr. Joshua Green. He is Managing Director at Mafadi Property Management Company. Mr. Green, it's an honor, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
A lot of people don't know who you are, and you were giving, you and I were basically practicing your intro. Yeah.
So a little intro, it's Joshua Green. I'm the Managing Director of Mafadi Property Management. As Mafadi as a group, we've got different entities that do different things in the property sector, different services.
Yeah.
We've got the Mafadi Property Services, which handles the body corporate side of things. And we've got Mafadi Property Management, which is the residential management side, as well as Mafadi Commercial, which we do the same thing we do for residential, we do on the commercial market. So property management. And then we've got a few extra services that we tap onto those management products. So, for example, we've got a company called Maintech, which handles all the maintenance. Both on the commercial and on the residential side. And also Green Tech, which is a newish business that we've launched that does services. So pest control, fire equipment servicing, and soon in due course, cleaning, gardening, security, etc. So we're really trying to create this one-stop shop for property services overall, whether it's a body corporate, whether it's Airbnb. We've got an Airbnb business called Veza Air. So we do short-term letting, we do the body corporate management, we do the residential management, we do the commercial management, and now we're doing all the services to cater to all those management companies.
Yeah.
And that's Mafadi in a nutshell.
That's an entire ecosystem in the property industry.
That's the group.
So you play the role of managing director, obviously. And a lot of people, when they hear people like you speak, they see the glory in what you've done and what you've achieved. But I'm more interested in the story. The story behind the man. And just it didn't come easy, obviously. Just to know what your background is, where you started. Have you always been in property?
No, so I'll tell you, I started in the food industry. I was doing food and beverage management many years ago. And in my mind, management is management. Whether you're managing food, restaurants, catering, property, people, it's about implementing systems, dealing with people, managing relationships, and ultimately providing a good service in whatever the field it is that you're in. So I went from food management into property management. I started working off in my property career. I started off in working for a developer who I was just managing his current portfolio. And then as the market changed around 2010, he was stuck with this big complex and not a lot of sales. And we started managing the rentals of that. That turned into a management company of about 200 units. And slowly over time, we started taking on other properties to manage as well. Came a point where the developer sold off his units, and I was still managing them for the new buyers that had bought those units. So I had my own little management
Did you set
company.
up a separate company?
We had a completely separate company at the time. It was myself and one other lady. We ran out of an office inside one of the complexes that we were managing. And we did a great job. And I must say, you talk about early beginnings. When it came to maintenance, I would go and change a plug myself if I had to. When it came to
you do
painting,
look like an hands-on
guy. It
guy.
has to be hands-on. And that's actually the Mafadi motto today is hands-on management. It's wonderful to sit behind a desk and manage property behind a computer screen. It's a whole nother level when you're in the details and you're dealing with the tenants and you're dealing with City Power and you're dealing with Joburg and you're dealing with all the little bits and pieces that make up property management. And that's that's how I started. So if it meant painting a unit, I was there with the painter, fetching the painter, dropping him off, buying the material, doing it ourselves. Obviously, as things grow and you take on more properties, that becomes harder to do. And so you start hiring more and more people. So that's what happened before I joined Mafadi. I was managing about 450 properties, extremely hands-on. And then I met our CEO, Simon Rubin, and we were chatting about growing Mafadi as a group, as Mafadi Property Management on its own. And I joined him, it was mid-COVID actually. It was like in the heat of COVID, I think May, June time of COVID of 2020.
Yeah.
Simon invited me to come on board with Mafadi. We had a couple meetings, and I was dropped into this ocean of managing 8,500 units with a team. And we've slowly over time grown that team to the point that we now have about 50 staff managing 8,500 units on the residential side every single day.
Yeah.
And that's 50 office staff. That's not counting all the building managers and the caretakers and the cleaners and everyone else. There's a whole array of those staff as well. And we do a hell of a job at it, I think. I'd like to think. I mean, the feedback I get from my owners and from my tenants is normally good feedback. You're always going to have a disgruntled tenant, and you're always going to have someone that's not 100% happy. And when I walked in here, I mentioned to you about failures. In every business, you almost have to fail to learn from your mistake and then grow better. Thankfully, we haven't had many failures. We really haven't. Not before my time with Mafadi and not during Mafadi. We've had lessons learned. And I always say this to owners. We've had balls that have been dropped, right? But I always say that the real service is how quickly do you pick up that ball and run with it and fix it. And that's what we do every single day. We ensure that we're constantly fixing things and making sure that things are being done right, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really what I do every single day. Yeah.
And then looking at your own personal journey into property management, I mean, there was years and years where you've built this massive portfolio of managing 450 units, and then you were thrown into, I can't say it's the deep end for you.
Well,
it's like you're handling it quite well.
A bigger portfolio.
You're thrown into a bigger portfolio of 8,500 units. What was the key lessons and the preparation that you've had that prepared you for the 8,500? Because what I know is that a lot of people hear 8,500 and they want to jump right into the 8,500 without literally managing the 5, the 2, the 3, the 10.
So I made a point of, when I was running my own shop kind of thing, I made a point of taking on everything. Anything that came my way, I took it on and I managed it. If it was a single unit, if it was 10 units, if it was 100 units. And often an owner will say to you, I'm not going to give you my units, only 2 or 3. It's probably too small for you. And I'd say, no. You only get to 8,500 or 1,000 or 500. You only get there by taking on one, and then you get lucky, you get 10. Then you get very lucky, you get 50 or 100. It's a slow process and it takes time. And you've got to prove yourself over and over and over again. They say you're only as good as your last month's collections or your last month's letting. Right? So it's a constant journey. Every single day it's a journey. Where did I get the skill set? And I'll tell you, is I volunteer for a medical organization where we sometimes see horrible traumas on the road. And I treat, it's funny, I treat property management like a train accident every day from a trauma point of view. You're arriving, you've got 8,500 tenants. Someone's going to be unhappy with something. Someone's Wi-Fi is not working. Someone's toilet's leaking. Someone didn't pay rent. Someone paid rent with the wrong reference. There's 1,000 things that can go wrong in a day. And it comes down to, how are you going to tackle it? Because you can't tackle all of it head on. It's not possible. So what I've done with my team is the first thing I did when I came into Mafadi was separate the teams into what we call pods. Right? So each pod handles a certain amount of property. So the way we do it now is each pod manages roughly 2,000 units, about between 1,700 to 2,000 units. And in that pod, I have a portfolio manager. That's the person that's the direct liaison between the property and the owner. I have a financial administrator who handles all the finance back end. They don't really deal with anyone specifically. They're more of a support to the PM, the portfolio manager. We then have a property administrator who assists. It's like an admin assistant to the portfolio manager to help with just day-to-day tasks, pulling reports, drawing up Excel sheets, etc., as needed. We then have a credit controller who does all our credit collections. So calling the tenants, reminding them about rent being due, dealing with the legal stuff, tribunals, etc., as needed. And then we have 2 property managers. Those property managers are your ops guys. Those are the guys on the ground.
On the ground,
They're the ones going, meeting the building manager, meeting suppliers on site, making sure the units are ready for letting, etc. And then we have another person who's the letting supervisor, we call him. He's in charge of making sure that those units, that the vacancies in that pod are filled. That's the job. So between the 6 or 7 guys, they look after 2,000 units, and they make sure that those units are operating, the tenants are paying rent, the owners are getting paid, suppliers are getting paid, that the vacancies are being filled, marketing's happening. It's a team. And we have 4 of those teams, 4.5 of those teams now. We're busy growing that 5th team now. So we've got those teams, and that's how we attack property management every day. And it came from my history with working in the medical field a little bit to understand, like, you're dealing with this ginormous thing every morning. How are you going to break it down? You can't be in 100 places at once. So it took time, and that's the difference between running my own thing and working in Mafadi, is that you have to learn to delegate. It's very hard for me. I'm a hands-on, not control freak, but I like to be in control of things. So it took time and energy and effort from me to be able to hand that over to, let's say, the portfolio manager and say, okay, here, I'm giving you this property, run with it now. And when there's problems, they'll let me know about it, and I'll jump in and help them de-escalate whatever the issues are.
Yeah.
And that's really been the journey. It's a lot of hard work, and for the guys starting out, it's not so simple. Hey, you don't go from 1 to 1,000. You go from 1 to 2 to 5 to 10. If you're lucky, 15, and slowly until you hit your big one. And then now you're on 60, and then it's 61, 62, and then you get 100, and then 50 come more, and slowly you build. And the nice thing also is that as you build, you slowly build your team. You can't come on with a team with massive overheads of 100,000 Rand a month if you're only making 5. It's a service game. So you take on what you can handle, you take on more, you grow more, you take on more, you grow more, and you keep growing and you keep growing. And that's how we've done what we've done today with Mafadi.
Yeah. So have you always been the strategic person that thinks of solving solutions on a grander scale like that? Or is it something that you picked up along the way? I know you mentioned the fact that you picked up a lot of skills in the medical field, but you sound like someone who's very strategic. And
have to be strategic, and I have been. It is the way I operate. I like to have things, organized.
So how did you pick up those skills?
I picked up those skills. I think I left home at a young age. I went to go study.
How old were you?
I was about 15 or 16. I went to a boarding school overseas, and and I had to make my own bed and kind of fend for myself in that sense, like kind of hustle and make. I've always been one of those hustler kind of guys that made a plan, made things work. And in order to do that, you had to just be organized. I'm like that at home with my own expenses. I'm like that at home with my own maintenance in my own house. Have to be organized. It's the only way for me, it's the only way to operate in the day. If it means finding a special app that you can, and that's another thing, prop tech. There's a lot of tech out there to help you with all these kind of things. Find an app that helps you to remind you to do certain things, checklists. There's a ton of stuff out there to help you, and I've just adopted whatever I can within reason. I'm not going to have 100 apps that remind me to call someone, right? But I've got like an app on my email that will return an email if it hasn't been answered in a few days. Then I can follow up. I can say, hey, why haven't you done this yet? What's happening here? Or if I'm pitching to an owner, hi, sir, just following up, wondering if you're still interested in our services, et cetera, et cetera. So we find different tech to help us with it. And it's how I've just lived my life. I don't know. It's how God blessed me with a sense of organization and structure. I'm a very structured person, both in my personal life and in my business life.
So what happens in situations where things seem chaotic and there is no structure, and you're this person that's used to structure?
Yeah, it happens. You take a deep breath, and I always say to my staff, 2 things. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. And I always ask them, guys, how do you scratch your ear? And sometimes they do this, which is the wrong way. And the other time they do this, which is the right way. You don't have to complicate things to get here. You can just lift your hand up and do it. So it's all about pausing, taking a deep breath, look at what's in front of you. It could be that I have a whole bunch of tenants refusing to pay rent there, and I've got an owner that's upset there, and a new take on there, and it's month-end billing, and 1,000 things happening at once. Take a break, take a breath, pause, look at everything that's going on. And I'll often take a piece of scrap paper and I'll write it down, or on a whiteboard, and then, okay, cool, now delegate. Cool. So this portfolio manager is going to handle that. Give me feedback when you're done, and I'll talk to you about that now regarding closed loop communication. Biggest key in property in any management.
Closed loop communication.
Yeah, I'll come back to it in a second. And I'll give it to that portfolio manager and say, come back to me when you're done. I'll give this to this property manager. Let me know once the leak is stopped. I'll give this to the credit controller. Let me know what the tenants say. Boom, boom, boom. And then I'll sit back late in the day and say, okay, guys, now give me feedback. Where are we holding? We were at chaos at 10 o'clock this morning. At 2 p.m., we should be at chaos -5. By 4 p.m., 5 p.m., we should be at zero, at no chaos, right? Organized. Now, there's also organized chaos. Property management is busy every day. If it's not city power threatening to cut you, or Joburg Water that doesn't have water, or tenants that are upset, or a new take on, which is great, but it involves a lot of work, there's always something going on in the day, always. And it's about just putting them into different lanes and categories and getting them done. I spoke about closed loop communication. Another thing we learned, being as an emergency responder, one of the things is that when you call your dispatch or your control room, you'll say, control room, this is Josh Green arriving on scene. They come back to you and say, copy Josh Green arriving on scene. Now, I know that they heard me that I'm on scene, and they know that I'm on scene. There's no way any of us could say anything different. And that's what I tell a lot of, I try and train a lot of our staff is, if I say to you guys, follow up on this in this building and just double check what's happening with that water leak there. They come back to me and they'll say, Josh, we're going to the building and we're going to go check on this and this problem. I'll come back to you at 5. And then at 5 p.m. they come back to me and they'll say, Josh, the leak hasn't been fixed yet. We're waiting for Joburg Water to come, or for the plumber or whoever it is. Cool. And there's this constant back and forth until such time that I know it's been fixed. They know it's been fixed. Then the portfolio manager knows it's been fixed, and they can relay that to the owner and to the tenants. So there's always there's never, again, it's not a perfect world, but we try. Our aim, our goal is to make sure that there's never a loose end that's just left hanging. That everyone in the picture, whoever it's been designated to or delegated to, knows exactly what needs to be done and is feeding back. There's constant feedback in what we do. And for me, that is key in all service delivery. That is key in management in general, and specifically in property management. There's no person in the world that doesn't appreciate knowing that you've heard their complaint. So if it's a tenant that's upset about something, hi sir, we hear your complaint. We'll be back. We'll be in touch with you within the next 24 hours. Cool. Now make sure you're in touch with them in 24 hours. Hi sir, we've looked at your complaint. These are some of the issues. I need more time to fix it. Or I don't need more time to fix it. This is the story. You need to settle the rent. And we have those kind of conversations. So it's very much, you spoke about what is the key to success in property management.
Yeah.
I would say get ready to work your backside off. That's number one. Number two, it's a 24/7, 365 job. Okay, there are no day offs. There's no day offs. Yeah. Because I can be sitting on the beach in December holidays and I'm still with my phone and a tablet in case I need to log onto the bank. And I have plenty of staff that can get things done. But if something needs to be done and a staff member's sick or someone's on leave or someone's not available, the owner doesn't want to hear a story, oh, sorry, I was on holiday. They don't care about that. Yeah. And the tenant doesn't care about that. They want to know the problem's been fixed now.
Sure.
So it's very much, grit, determination to get the job done, high levels of service, constant communication to owner, communication to tenant, communication with each other internally. That and the willingness to succeed. I'm not happy at 8,500 units. It's not good. I want to be on 50,000 units.
100,000.
100,000 units, but I need to get there.
Sure.
I'm not going to go from 8.5 to 100. It's not going to happen in one day.
Sure.
I'll go from 8.5, and I'm still doing that same grind that the guy who's starting out doing 1, 2, 3, 10, 20.
It's just different
I'm still
number
doing
of
it
units.
8.5. Yeah. So it's 8.5, and then it's 8,550. And then, I get a lucky one. Now it's 8,700. I got a nice big building. Now it's that daily grind, meeting owners, going out, checking out buildings, trying to take on, pitching constantly, even at 8,500. We're still doing the same thing the guy at 1 unit is doing.
Yeah. So I'm interested in this, right? So you got into Mafadi during COVID. I mean, that must have been a difficult time to get into a business, right? And you come from a background where you have to now relinquish or take your 450 units, put them as part of Mafadi. I don't know if that's what you did. You let me know about that. And then there was probably some sort of chaos that existed then because of COVID, people getting retrenched, tenants not paying rent anymore, admin not in place because people are working from home, people can get to the office, some maintenance can't be done. How did you navigate that as a new director in the business?
So when I brought those 450 plus units into Mafadi, it was mid-COVID, it was wild, tenants didn't have money to pay, but we were very human about it and we worked with tenants and with owners. So it became about relationships and saying, well, the tenant's been here, he's always paid rent, what's the story? And it was about obviously payment plans had to be put in place, and we had to verify if someone really wasn't earning money, wasn't employed, etc. In some cases, owners were very gracious and gave rental holidays. In some cases, in other cases, some owners were saying, "Listen, I also have bonds to pay. I also need to pay my expenses, so I'm not giving any discounts." And we worked with each owner and with each group of tenants in their own, with their own merits, kind of thing. And it was chaotic and it was hectic. We thankfully were able to pay all our staff during that time. We had a setup like what you have here, where we went and we organized Zooms and laptops and all sorts of microphones and headphones and stuff, so that our staff could work from a safe environment at home. And then obviously, as soon as the office, became available to work from the office, everyone came back. You can't do property management working remotely. It doesn't work. It's hands-on. It's not only hands-on in the physical sense. It's hands-on in the sense of, like, my whole pod sits together. My pods sit 1, 2, 3, 4, and now the fifth one, and I sit here. So we communicate all the time. Instead of 100 emails back and forth with each other, I'll say, "Hey, by the way, what's happening there? What's happening there?" And there's a lot of communication that happens, on the ground. To do that remotely, I don't know if I could do it. It wouldn't work for me remotely. So during COVID, we made it work because we didn't have a choice. And we relied heavily on a lot of our building managers that were in the buildings. So we'd communicate with them directly because they're already in the building. But it was challenging. It had its challenges. And thankfully, we're on the other side of that now. A lot of the vacancy rates gone down drastically, which is great. Most of the buildings are full. The collection rate, I can tell you, we collect at about 99% of what we bill a month. Yeah. Which is mind-blowing in the industry.
Yeah. So I want to also speak to this, right? Or ask this question concerning confidence. How does one build their level of confidence? I know it could come from the fact that you've been in business for a long time, but I don't think you started out outright confident to do the stuff that you're doing. So how does one work on their confidence to get to the level where you are?
I think it comes with a bit of trial and error. I think it comes with a little bit of your own self-training. I've been on a few talking courses, how to talk publicly, Dale Carnegie, for example.
Yeah.
Take advantage of those kind of courses.
How to influence and
influence people, yeah. Try doing that every day. So I've done a few of those kind of courses, and I think it comes down to believing in yourself. The worst that an owner can tell you is no. So if I come to a meeting with an owner and I say, "Hey, listen, I'm pitching, I'd love to manage at this and this percent. These are the services we offer. Do you accept our proposal?" The worst he's going to tell you is no. Okay. So if he tells you no, you pick yourself up and you move on to the next guy. And you'll get no, 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 and then you'll get a yes. And then it'll make you feel lekker. And then you'll get no, 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 and then you get a yes. And eventually what happens is A, you start getting less people telling you no. And B, that lack of feeling you get when they tell you yes carries you forward. It stays with you, and it builds up confidence. And slowly, you walk into a room. I can walk into a room and talk about property all day. Ask me pretty much almost any question within reason about what I do in a day. I'm passionate about it. I believe it. They joke because I wear a Mafadi shirt every single day. Even on Sundays, you'll see me in a Mafadi shirt, right? Yeah. It's just, I like the shirt. It's besides it being a comfortable shirt, I'm proud of my brand. My jacket that I wear when it's raining says Mafadi on it. My baseball, my cap that I wear says Mafadi on it. It's just be proud of what you've built. Be proud of what you represent, and remember that it's a brand that you represent wherever you go. The brand doesn't turn off at 5 p.m. So when you're walking around, I bought an airplane a couple months ago. I was flying to Durban. We've got some properties we manage in Durban as well. Yeah. I was flying to Durban to check on some properties. And
Are you flying it yourself, or you've got a pilot?
Yeah. No. We fly the local airlines for now. So we're flying to Durban, and I'm about to board the plane, and the lady comes to me and she says, "Sorry, sir, is your name Joshua Green?" Thinking, "Oh gosh, what did I do now?" She says to me, "No, I just wanted to find out. I see you wearing a shirt that says Mafadi. I'm actually a tenant of yours, and I wanted to know, can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." She's like, "Oh no, I paid my rent, but it wasn't receipted properly. I used the wrong reference. Who should I speak to? Etc." And I gave her the right number to speak to, and boom, 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 2 seconds later it was sorted. But there I was going to Durban. I could have been wearing a normal T-shirt, right? And she would never have known who I am. But it just goes to show you your brand. You carry your brand every single day, and slowly as people get to know you, people associate you with a brand, which also means you've got to behave yourself all the time, right? So you want to go get drunk at a bar, that's fine, but understand that people are going to associate that with your brand. And I think it's an important thing to focus on, especially in South Africa. It's an important thing to focus on here, that you represent a brand every single day. Based on what you post on social media, on your own personal account, based on your opinions and views of politics, etc. Everything. At the end of the day, people are going to say Josh Green from Mafadi. They're not going to say Josh Green in his own personal capacity said so.
Yeah.
So it's very important to be careful as to what opinions you share, etc. And also just be mindful that people are always associating you with a brand. You know, when someone tells me that, I often tell my staff, when I see an email, if it's coming through maybe on Hello Peter or via my email that says, you know, I'm not happy, my water's not working, I have no hot water. It happens, I have no hot water, right? It could be because there's load shedding, could be because there's a geyser problem. When I stand in my shower at home and I have hot water pouring on my head, I feel for those people that don't have hot water. I take it personally. And I'm training my staff to do the same thing. That when a tenant complains they don't have Wi-Fi, imagine you didn't have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi today is like oxygen. Business happens, banking happens, everything happens over Wi-Fi. So I'm trying to make it more personal for me and for the staff when tenants complain about something. Again, it goes back to the brand. And again, it goes back to being hands-on. And again, it goes back to building confidence and building up service levels. I want to be at 100% all the time. It's not possible. It's not possible to be at 100% all the time. But that's what I'm aiming for. So if I'm constantly aiming and pushing myself to be at 100%, so maybe I'll get to 90%, 95%, 99%. But I'm aiming for that 100% level of service at all times. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what drives me. And it gives you confidence. You know, every time you have a win, makes you that much better. It's like putting on another bulletproof vest or something. You know, you feel stronger and more capable. And then you have another one. And then you have, I don't like calling it losses because it's negative. I try and remain very positive in what we do.
It's either you win or it's either you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about the learnings.
The learnings. Lots of learnings every day. Learnings every day when it comes to, like I said, closed loop communication. It's a big thing I'm pushing now in the company where people follow up and follow through. You know, we've had a few, you know, incidents where it wasn't followed up and followed through, and then you get an owner who's upset or a tenant who's upset. It's about fixing those things. Learning with the current economics of South Africa. You've got City Power, City of Johannesburg, Joburg Water, City of Ekurhuleni. You know, we deal with all these different municipalities. It's a lot of learning there. What to do, how to do it, who to talk to, you know, to try and get things right. In South Africa, you also have to be careful. There's a lot of corruption and chance takers that are trying to make a quick buck. You know, I'm not going to go into too many details on that, but you got to be very careful with who you deal with and what you deal with them. And, you know, if it means someone says, I'm a consultant from this and this municipality and I can help you. Oh, 1 second. Why is the consultant contacting you? Yeah. Who told the consultant about you? Yeah. Call your municipality and say, hey, listen, do you know so-and-so?
Because they call you and say, I'm about to switch off power at one of your properties.
You get all of those. And I don't like to bash any organizations or any councils or anyone. There's a lot of stuff going on the council side.
Some of those calls are not even from council.
Yeah, 100%. But it makes it very difficult. So those are a lot of learning lessons there where you you mess up once or twice and go, 1 second. Next time someone wants to cut my power, bring me a job card showing that you have permission to cut my power. Or bring me a copy of your ID of your council ID that says you can come onto my property and cut my power, etc. Those are just small examples of learnings. I think it also comes down to relationships, making sure that you're constantly following up, with owners, checking in on them. Yes, some owners only want to be talked to once a month. They want to know once a month, what did I make? What did I lose? How are we doing? What are the vacancies? Yeah. And you have other owners who are a bit more needy. And they want to, it's not needy, that it's the biggest asset of their life.
Yeah.
They want to know.
And what roles do like personal relationships, like family and friendships play in building a business?
Always.
A role for them?
Yeah, go to your low-hanging fruit first, hey? Yeah. Go to all your family and friends. I sit in synagogue often and I'll chat to people about property, and I've got some mates of mine who are on property and they've referred me to someone else. You don't always get a deal out of it, but there's a lot of networking that can happen. I go to networking events with our suppliers, just to meet people, just to chat to people. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, listen, if you ever come across a property for management, let me know and I'll look after you with a commission. Yeah. Not look after you with a bribe, not look after you with anything side. Let's put a commission structure together and let's agree on, I'll pay you X% of whatever you bring me. There's a lot of that. I do that all the time with my family and friends.
Interesting. You when I asked about the importance of relationships, you mentioned family, you mentioned friends, you mentioned suppliers, but also you mentioned your faith, because you shared at the synagogue.
Sure.
So what role does then faith play? Because a lot of people overlook that. The fact that you could be in synagogue.
It's important.
Be worshiping and be networking.
So obviously in the time of worshiping, whether it's your church or your synagogue or your mosque, wherever it is you are, obviously the time of worship is time of worship, right? And that's, I'm not going to sit in the middle of the priest's sermon and start discussing how much commission we're going to make, There has to be a level of respect. And like you say, there's a time and a place for everything. But afterwards, when you're walking back to your car or you're walking back to your lunch or whatever it is, chat to your mates, chat to your congregants, chat to your people that you deal with. These are people of the same faith, people in the same area, people of the same, whether it's a religious institution. Talk to them. You've got nothing to lose. It's low-hanging fruit.
Sure.
It's much easier for me to make a meeting with somebody that I see once a week at synagogue than it is for me to make with some big CEO of a big property portfolio that I never see.
Sure.
I'm going to have to jump through many more hoops to get a meeting with him than I do to set up a meeting with a fellow congregant. So I think everything plays a role. Family, social, suppliers, religion, all of it. Speak to the people that you deal with. Speak to the people that you interact with every day first. And you'll get no. And to be told no by a friend is not so bad. To go to a friend and say, hey, listen, bud, do you have anything that you need management? I know your dad has a property portfolio. Can I help with anything? Is there anything you can give me from the bottom of the barrel? Like two of his scraps, give it to me to manage.
Sure.
And you'll be surprised. A lot of people will say, hey, listen, I've got a really bad property. If you can do it, it's yours. You can manage it. I promise you that's how I took on my first properties. I got the bottom. I got the rubbish of the rubbish of the rubbish from people's portfolios where they couldn't manage them. And I managed to turn them around. I had a building. I had a single unit that the owner wasn't able to collect rent, I think, for like 2 years.
Wow.
I took it on. I engaged with the tenant. We came with a payment plan. Today, he landed up buying the unit from us, from the owner. He's now the owner of the unit that he rented. And he was the tenant. And he was fully paid by the time that he bought the unit. He was fully paid up his
rent for 2 years.
For 2 years. He had fully paid. It took time.
So you didn't come in with the mindset to evict the tenant?
No, it didn't come in guns blazing because the guy's living there. Look, you can come in eviction and I'm going to, get the courts and blah, blah, blah. But I came in and I engaged with him and I said, listen, what's the problem? No, there was a bit of COVID and this happened and that happened. Okay, cool. What's the plan? No, I can pay you this much. I said, you got to pay a bit more than what you're suggesting. You can't say 50 Rand a month if you owe me 20,000 Rand, right? And slowly we worked on it and he came right. And the deal, and then he wanted to buy the unit. The deal was there was a little balance owing. He had to settle that balance before we'd sign the offer to purchase. And he did it and it was done. And today he's a landlord. And I've had full circle before as well. I've had a tenant that's been my tenant, paid rent for 2 or 3 years, landed up buying the unit, and then giving me the unit to manage for another tenant. Mm-hmm. For me, that's cool. That's Absolutely. Full circle. Yeah. That's where a tenant becomes an owner, becomes a client.
Sure.
So I've had that. It doesn't happen all the time, but I've had that quite a few times. And that's a cool feeling. Then you've got a good level of service. And when there's an issue, you'll call me, hey, Josh, how's it? Can you help me out with this and this and that? Sure, no problem. I've got another property that I might want you to manage. And that's the thing also is that once you've got that first property, the next one's, you've got 1 foot in the door already. Mm-hmm. Right? So, hey, by the way, do you have anything else for me to manage? Yeah, actually, my granny left us a flat. I'd like you to manage it. Boom, here. Or, I inherited a flat there, or I just bought a small unit in wherever. And slowly, you start building up miniature portfolios within the big group. And that's also quite lekker.
Do you have some business principles that you've learned from the Quran?
So mainly from the Torah, from the Bible.
Yeah.
Be honest. Be honest.
I meant the Torah, actually.
Be honest. That's my biggest one. Be honest. Our CEO always says, if you can't put it on the front page of the newspaper, don't do it. And that's my, don't cheat anyone.
If you can't put it in the front page of the newspaper,
in other words, if you're not willing to have whatever it is you're doing being on the front page, then you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. In a negative way. In other words, if you think that this deal you're doing is a little bit dodgy, and if it makes the front page, you're going to feel embarrassed, then don't do it. So make sure whatever you're doing, you can be proud of, and you can stand up and I can tell you straight up, this is what we do, this is how we do it. And that for me is in property management, be honest. There's so much fraud and corruption in South Africa. There's so many people trying to make a buck on the side by undercutting this one and that. Just be a good human being and be honest. And then I'd say probably one other one is treat others like you want to be treated, I guess. And that's really that's really what I think the whole Torah revolves around, for as a Jewish person, to just treat others the way you want to be treated. If a tenant's going through a rough time, well, engage with that tenant and talk to them. I'm not saying I won't evict you. I might still evict you because that's how the law works.
I love you and evict you.
But no, listen, there's the engagement of, hey, listen, you're in arrears. What can we do? The guy, I had it yesterday. The guy came to me in tears, and I obviously have to differentiate the emotion a little bit. I have to cut out the emotion a little bit because I'm running a business, right?
Sure.
But it struck me for a second. I said, okay, talk to me. What's the problem?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I can pay you, but I need an extra 3-4 days. Can you help me? Sure, no problem. But if you lie to me, then I'm going to move to the next stage. And that means that the personal relationship's over. So I'll treat you like a human being, no problem. I do it every day. But don't lie to me. Don't tell me you're going to pay me tomorrow and then pay me next week. Because that's not good enough for me. Because if you tell me you pay me tomorrow, at 10 o'clock, I'll send you a proof of payment. Then at 10:01, that proof of payment must be in my inbox.
Sure.
And I think that's, listen, it's tough, because you've got owners. Some owners will be like, I don't care, evict the guy, get him out, blah, 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 blah. And that's where we come in, is that we're non-emotional, or we try to be non-emotional, right? You have an owner who's emotional, and you have a tenant, and then you have the property manager in the middle. And we try not to be emotional. We try to run it as a business. So we're approaching the tenant and we're saying to the tenant, listen, I get you. I understand you're going through a rough time. I hear you. But I report to the owner and I need a plan. What's the plan? And you'll turn around and say, I can do 5,000 today and another 5,000 next month. Okay, no problem. Cool. But I'm holding you to that. And if you don't do that, then we're going to go to the next level. And that's where I love you, but I need to evict you. Right? That's where you get to that. So I think, to answer your question, be honest and just treat other people like you want to be treated. If God forbid I was in that situation where I couldn't make my bond payment, I'd call the bank and say, listen, I'm having a rough month. I did that during COVID. During COVID, I called my bank and I said, hey, listen, can I have a payment holiday for 2 months? And they said, sure. Cool. I approached them. They agreed to me. And then after 2 months, I continued paying my payments. It's not a problem. Just be open and honest with people. That's all. So I think, in general, the message out there would be, from a tenant point of view, is communicate with your property management company or your landlord, whichever one you're dealing with. As a property management company, I think manage the expectations of your owners, of your clients, and ensure open, honest communication with your tenant. Right? And as an owner, communicate your needs to your property manager. Tell them what you're expecting so that they can manage those expectations. And that's really what we do all day. Hey? Yeah. It's a relationship management on all levels.
Yeah, I was about to say then, how do you then navigate the different kinds of relationships within the business? And even in South African society, because you're dealing with people from different backgrounds. You're Jewish, I'm Christian, he's Muslim, he's black, you are white.
So it's challenging.
They say you've got white privilege.
Yeah,
and you say, but I've worked hard.
We've got some of those challenges. No, we definitely do. And I've got all sorts of clients. Yeah. It does. Look, I try to keep politics in general out of what I do. I'm not a politician at all. I don't discuss government politics. I don't discuss international politics. It's got nothing to do with my day-to-day business. When it comes to relations, when I need to, I'll engage different people to help me. And don't be shy to ask for help. That's another very big, important business rule. If you need help, ask for help. I was dealing recently with a group of tenants that landed up getting a ward councillor involved, and they had their tribal leader that was engaging with me. And him and I we were clashing. We weren't, talking not the same language from a language point of view. We just weren't on the same page. Yeah. So I engaged some help from our partners. I engaged some help from some of my staff to say, guys, let's sit in a meeting together and let's work this out. Maybe it's a language barrier. Maybe it's a race barrier. Unfortunately, there's a lot of racism that exists. We love to say it doesn't, but it does. It exists very much so. And it's about managing that. You'll get tenants that say, oh, you're evicting me because I'm black or white or this or that. And my guys, it's got nothing to do with what color you are or how much money you have. Well, it does have to do with how much money you have. I just want you to pay rent. So there are some of those challenges, and it's about navigating them whilst being very, very careful and very, what's the word? Being very careful and being very respectful, I guess, at the same time.
Yeah.
So Josh, I've come to learn that, when you're dealing with an older African man, you refer to him as Madala. Cool. So it's a sign of respect. So I'll refer to him as Madala, and I'll give him that respect. And they'll give me the respect back, and it's instant. You see it immediately. Or if I'm dealing with an older white gentleman, it's sir. It's the same equivalent to Madala. It's just about dealing with people. It's about treating people the way you want to be treated, like I said earlier. Regardless of race, religion, culture, money, wealth, doesn't matter. I've spoken to landlords that own 1 unit and a landlord that owns 500 units, and I treat them the same.
Sure.
I talk to them the same.
Sure. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Jewish, and he says to me, "Witness, I've been talking business since I was about 7 years old, sitting around the dinner table with my dad, because my dad wanted me to take over the family business. I didn't really take over the family business eventually. But he says to me, I used to work for him. He says, the 1 year that you did at my company as internship, I did that from the time I was 7 till I was about 20 something. Yeah. Was it the case with you?
So I left home at a young age, like I told you. I fended for myself in the sense of income, money. I didn't have this unlimited credit card to go shopping and spending and buying.
But the trading and the mindset?
I hustled. I hustled every day on my own. So while I was in boarding school, I used to run a little laundry shop in the boarding school because I didn't have a great laundromat. So I ran like a side hustle. And in the one lecture room, I was paid to return all the books to the bookshelf and clean up the place. I did that. And slowly, I made a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. I told you I got involved in the food and beverage industry. I used to work
Was that in SA or overseas?
Overseas. I used to work as like a kosher supervisor for the kosher food at the different venues. And slowly, I hustled. I hustled from day one.
What does a kosher supervisor do?
It's ensuring that the food that comes in meets a certain kosher guidelines.
And what do you look for?
You got to make sure that the beef has got the correct stamp and certification. You got to make sure that there's a whole array. It's a whole nother podcast for you. There's a whole array of things that you have to look out for. But I learned management skills. I was working with some of the top chefs in the country. I was working with some of the top general management guys in the country at some of the fancy Ritz-Carlton hotels around the world. And slowly, you pick up skills and you learn. I wasn't given a golden spoon. I wasn't said, oh, here, my boy, here's my company from my dad and run with it. My dad's a rabbi. He's not involved in property management at all. Yeah. So, there wasn't any of that. But I got skills. I was brought up in a great home with great values. And that gave me the foundation to become the person I am today. I think, very much so, whatever I have today came from home. And I just expounded on it and pushed myself in the different fields.
So there's a saying that I love very much. It says, it's not what you leave for your kids that matters. It's what you leave in them. You believe in that?
1,000%. And I can tell you now that when you work hard with a skill set that you've inherited from your parents, that they've instilled in you, and you make money, that money is worth far more than the money they leave you as an inheritance. Mm-hmm. Making your own rand is worth 100 times more than being given a rand.
Sure.
Look, it would have been nice to have been given a couple million rand. It would be great. It would have helped a lot. But we're not in that position. And most South Africans aren't in that position. In fact, most people in business aren't in that position.
Yeah, you have to start from scratch.
Start from scratch, work hard, learn. We said not fail, learn, and keep learning. I'm still learning. I'm 39, 8,500 units, commercial, director, all the titles, all wonderful stuff. I'm still learning. Every single day I'm still learning. Yeah. I've never been a title person. I only use the title when I need to in terms of, showing support for my team, et cetera, but I'm not a title guy. You want me to go and check a property? I'll go. I was in Jeppystown last night at 5:00 checking on a building. No problem. I've got no problem being the guy that goes to do the hard work. And I think that's an important lesson, is be willing to work hard.
Can you re-communicate the closed loop communication? Perhaps in an easier, in a different way, like in a simplified way.
Closed loop communication. Make sure that the instruction you're giving has been received. And when that person who received the instruction has received it, make sure he lets you know that he's received it. Hi, I'm coming to your house today at 3 p.m. Okay, Josh, I'll see you at 3 p.m. Cool. There's no way now that you don't know that I'm coming at 3 p.m. And I know that I'm going to be there at 3 p.m. There's no miscommunication here at all. It's impossible, correct? Mm-hmm. That's closed loop communication. I'm going to give you an instruction, or I'm going to tell you something, whatever it is. I'm going to tell you I'm here or I'm arriving. Confirm that I've arrived. Now you know where I am, and I know that you know where I am. I do it with my daughter all the time. I'll say to her, okay, after school, you're going to do your homework. Repeat after me. Okay, Dad, after school, I'm going to do my homework, and then I can watch TV. Cool. There's no miscommunication now. It's not, Dad, I thought you said I could watch TV and then I would do my homework. There's none of that. It was very, very clear. You're going to come home, you're going to do your homework, and then you can watch TV. And she repeated it back to me. Cool. That's closed loop communication.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you can apply that into business, social, family, whatever. I mean, however you want.
I love it. So I want you to speak to the viewer at home. I think that's your camera there. This one, or the one on the table there.
Okay.
Right? And perhaps there's a young guy, could be white, could be black, could be Jewish, could be Muslim, could be Christian, whatever, right? And they're saying at home, saying, but you guys, I hear you. You're speaking out of privilege. You've got 8,500 units. I don't even have food to eat. And you are saying I can make it. How the hell am I going to make it?
So I'll tell you, in my mind, the answer is to put yourself out there every day. So make sure that you are hustling. Make sure that you're doing something every day to make a difference in the world. You may not get to 8,500 units. Maybe you'll get to 10 units or 20 units. And it may not be property management that you want to do at all. Whatever it is that you're aiming to get done, do it and apply just 1% every day. 1%, 1%, 1%. Try and do something every day to be better than you were yesterday. And that already is a win. If you're sitting at home and you've got nothing to eat, well, then make a plan. What are you going to do? You can't sit at home forever in that way. You've got to make a plan. Do something. Not just walk around, hand your CV out to 10,000 people, because that's, you're doing something, but that's not, be more proactive. Reach out to people you know. It might be your neighbor. It might be your pastor. It might be your priest. It might be your rabbi. It might be your imam, whoever it is. Reach out to your family, reach out to your friends, reach out to your religious institutions, reach out to somebody and try do something to make a difference. It might be as simple as, today I'm going to sweep a floor to make $50. Tomorrow I'm going to fold paper in envelopes to make $100. And slowly, you'll see it doesn't come in one day. And that's really my message to you, to me, to everyone. You just got to hustle. You really got to hustle every day. We live in South Africa. We've got lots of reasons and problems, and you can find all sorts of excuses for why things shouldn't work. It's very easy to say, this won't work because of politics. This won't work because of the economy. This won't work because of interest rates. This won't work because of my situation. To me, it's all nonsense. Make it work. Make a plan. Hustle. Put your clothes on. Get out there. Go do something. I'll tell you what inspires me the most. They irritate me a little bit, but they inspire me also. Is when you go driving on the traffic lights and you see some of the vagrants directing traffic. Yeah. To me, that is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. Our own country doesn't have enough police to manage an intersection. Yet a vagrant saw an opportunity. So he got his yellow vest and he sits there on the biggest intersections that I'm even too scared to drive through, right? And you see the guy pulling traffic and he's doing a good job at it, right? Okay, so he's not being paid by government to do it yet, but guys are giving tips. I've seen it. I've seen guys throw 10 Rand and 20 Rand or whatever, because ultimately you're helping me get home quicker. You're helping me keep traffic flowing. So something as simple as that, if that's the position you're in. I'm not saying everyone must go now and become a traffic advisor, but find something. There's so many gaps in the market. And I think in South Africa, where we have our problems, there's a lot of gaps. The more problems you have, the more gaps and opportunity there is to be successful. So find the opportunity in an honest way, like I said earlier, in an honest way, and own it.
Your favorite quote?
My favorite quote.
How to influence and influence people.
How to influence? No, my favorite quote, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your show, but my favorite quote would be own your shit. Right? Own your shit. Own your shit. It doesn't matter where you are in life. Doesn't matter what God gave you and didn't give you, and privilege, not privilege, black, white, this, that. We've all got our problems. You have some of the wealthiest people with big problems. The more money you have, the more problems you have, right? May not seem that way, but it's reality. I think that the biggest lesson is just own your shit. Take account of where I am in life, what I have in life, and what am I going to do to change it? Am I going to sit around here and be sorry for myself until the day I die? or am I going to get up and actually do something with my situation? And I think that's really, if half of South Africa took that approach, we'd be 100 times better in this country. Yeah. Just own it. That's all.
And do something about it.
Yeah, own it and then action it. So don't just say, oh, I own it, I'm poor. That's not owning it. That's own it and say, okay, I don't have a job. I don't have money for food. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Okay, cool. So that's the owning part. Now comes the action. Okay, so now what are you going to do about that? Now I'm going to go out and I'm going to hustle. I'm going to go ask that guy, listen, if I sweep the front of this road, will you give me $10? Don't try to be greedy and ask for 1,000 because you won't get it. Take the $10 and then do it for $20 and then employ someone to do it for $10 while you're doing somewhere else for 10 and slowly build a business.
Sure.
I look at the unemployment in South Africa and I think to myself, like, I live along near Louis Botha Avenue and I think to myself, on Louis Botha, the road's filthy. Just go clean the road. I'd love to make a business out of it. Unfortunately, it's all managed by council and municipalities. But like, go to a shop owner and say, listen, I'm going to bring my broom and I'm going to clean this area for you today. Are you willing to pay me something for it? I promise you the guy will say, listen, I'll give you a couple bucks. And build a business out of that. It's a great idea to build a great business.
Proper initiative.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It can be going to a business and say, listen, do you need anyone to help you hand out envelopes? Or I don't know. We had a situation in our office now where we have a special machine that folds all our rental statements for us. It's a fancy machine that does all this folding. The machine broke, right? But it's month end. We've got to still fold the statement. So I can't turn around to my tenants and say, sorry, I couldn't fold your statement. So I hired someone in. All she's doing all day is folding statements, right? But it's a job. She wasn't doing anything else before this. And from there, hey, maybe I'll see, wow, she's got really good determination. Maybe I'll make her something else in the business.
I hope
you
she's
never
listening
know.
To the podcast.
Well, maybe. But my point is you never know. You never know. And it goes back to what we said in the beginning. It's just the only reason I got to where I am today is by working hard. No one came and said, here, my boy, you've done so well. Here's 5 million rand. Now go run with it. We hustle every day, every rand, every cent, every opportunity. I have guys that email me, hi, I've got a house so-and-so with 9 rooms. Can you manage it? Sure, no problem. I'll be there tomorrow to go check it out. Boom, 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 boom. That's how we operate every single day. The same energy I have when someone says to me, I've got a building of 200 units. Can you manage? Obviously, that's more exciting than this. But for me, it's the same energy. Sure, I'll be there tomorrow. Sure, I'll be there tomorrow on both types of opportunities.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my story, guys.
Man, I love your story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out.
Pleasure. Absolute
God bless
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
And may you reach those 100,000 units.
Yeah,
then a million.
Amen.
Hopefully in your lifetime, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. In my lifetime, sooner than later.
Sooner than later. No, appreciate. Congratulations in advance.
Thank you.
On reaching a million units.
That's a million units.
Yeah.
I'll never sleep then. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Problems are multiplied. Yeah. Whatever problems you have at 8,500, you multiply. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Winner Circle on the It's More Than Just Money Movement channel. Please remember to subscribe. Remember to click on the notifications bell. I think this was amazing. Comment, let us know what resonated with you. Let us know what your thoughts are. And yeah, follow Mafadi. Where can people find you, Josh?
We're on LinkedIn. Sorry. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Mafadi.co.za. We're on the internet. We're all over. We're everywhere. Billboards, flyers, CBD, Joburg, Durban, Bloemfontein, Cape Town, all over.
All over, guys. And that's it from me and my team. It's More Than Just Money. Have a lovely, lovely day. Ciao. Cut.
Sweet. Thank you.